What's going on, guys? Chuck back with another awesome Blu-ray purchase, and today I want to talk about a new release from Vinegar Syndrome, one that apparently is caused a lot of, well, I don't say a lot, but at least I've seen some complaints about this from various collectors online, and that release is Invisible Maniac, or is it it's just Invisible Maniac. Um, and the reason what the, I don't know, controversy or, issue that people have, I'll get to in a minute. But first, let me tell you a little about my reasons for purchasing this movie. So first of all, I had never heard of Invisible Maniac. I had no clue about it whatsoever until I saw it advertised on Vinegar Syndrome. I think it might have been their Black Friday sales, I believe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's been a while. But I saw it and thought, probably not a title I'm really interested in. I mean, I'm looking at the titles. I mean, obviously, to me, my mind is it's a teen sex romp in the vein of something like Zapped. Kid gets invisibles around, hanging out in girls' showers, which, in some ways almost isn't too far from the real plot. But, so, that's really it. I wasn't really thinking about picking it up in any way whatsoever. But let's rewind a bit to April Fool's 2022, and Vinegar Syndrome puts up a post that there's for $5 you can get their experimental translucent slipcase, and all they're showing is just a hand holding nothing. It's it's highly experimental, whatever. $5. Clearly, it's April Fool's Day. It's a joke. A part of me is thinking, $5. Maybe there's some kind of hidden thing in there. Maybe it's a gag. Maybe they're just trying to find fun ways to ask to donate money. I don't know. But what the hell? It's $5. I'll give it to them. Think nothing of it after that. Your borders process ship. Okay, nothing's happened. I've got no notice about it. Okay, I'm out $5. Pfft, no big deal. Nothing else. I've donated to Vinegar Syndrome. Yay. So, fast forward to probably, I don't know, just before their Black Friday sale, and an email goes out notifying to everybody who purchased their experimental translucent slip of what it actually was, and it is a alternate lenticular slipcover for Invisible Maniac. I guess the translucent, they didn't want to call it invisible because if they would have given the whole thing away, so they call it in translucent. So anyone who bought that was getting this slipcover. And of course, if you've bought the movie, it comes with a slipcover, so you have this extra slipcover. Well, I obviously was getting the slipcover with my Black Friday purchase, but I hadn't picked up Invisible Maniac. So I think, well, if I'm getting a slipcover, I was kind of on the edge because it kind of seemed a little interesting. Maybe, I don't know. At that point, but once it says getting a slipcovers out, what the heck? I'll get the movie too. And I watched the trailer, and this is another reason why I was kind of glad I picked it up. I watched the trailer and I was going through it, and okay, so it's a kind of a weird slasher comedy thing. I'm down with that. That's gonna be fun. But as I'm watching it, I'm looking at this cast, and all these goofy teens in their 20s, and one person sticks out in my mind, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that Savannah? Could that possibly be Savannah? And you're wondering, for those of you who are out there wondering, who the hell is Savannah? And of course, there's probably people who follow me, who know me, who knows, oh yeah, I know who Savannah is. For those who don't know, Savannah was a very, very popular adult film star in the 90s. She had a career between 1990 and 1994. A very short span of time, but she was very prolific and she was huge. I mean, she was very, very popular. Unfortunately, she was also known for being one of the adult industry tragedies that she had committed suicide at the age of 23 in 1994. So yeah, I saw her. This was obviously her chance to do a breakout into a mainstream, other films outside of porn. So I was like, okay, now I'm hooked. I've got to check this, get this. So I did. And it came in, and This is, the actual disc. Here's the back, real quick. I'll go back later. And then I also got the slip. The slip, here's the back of the slip, the extra slip. I can't show you the front of the slip, but I will tell you, it looks like this, except it's lenticular. And when you do this, Savannah's clothes come off. So if you didn't know, this image here is Savannah. By the way, in this film, she's going under her real name, which was Shannon, was it Wilsey? I'm not really sure how to pronounce it last time, but it was her. She's going under her real name. But, this is her on the cover they put in this artwork. And she's on the front of this alternate. But again, if you turn it, her outfit disappears and she is au natural. So I'm not going to show it here, but that's the special lenticular cover. Now, apparently, there was a lot of issues online from a lot of collectors people who are subscribers to Vinegar Syndrome, which I am not. I mean, I've known people that's a huge amount of money to get everything they sent out, for very few exceptions. And I guess a lot of people, again, I don't want to say a lot of people. I probably saw one or two Facebook posts, excuse me, who complained about it. Maybe the same person. So maybe just one person out there who's upset. I don't know. Who was upset they did not get this alternate slip, and that they didn't pay this extra $5 because they figured they're getting everything anyways, and they're getting gypped. Blah blah blah. It's been a big thing, and now I guess these things are also being sold in the aftermarket or whatever, for high dollars for these, and for this alternate slip. And it's crazy if you talk, you think about what slip covers go for in the world of collectors. It's ridiculous, honestly. And I'm not saying much because I've paid extra for trying to find some slip covers for some of my movies. Now, nothing totally outrageous, but some of these prices are crazy. And apparently this is one of these things that collectors are throwing us up, but the price is way up on this. But a lot of people are upset because they didn't get this extra. And, why should they have had to dish out this $5? And at the end of the day, I don't know, what's right or wrong. All I know is I gave out $5, didn't think anything of it. And then I got this extra slip that's naughty at one side, which, hey, kudos to me. So, back to the disc in hand. Again, this is, this little Maniac. Again, this film is also presented. This is a 4K Blu-ray, which is great for Vinegar Syndrome, because this is a movie that was made for video. Plain and simple. It was never meant to be anything. It was just made on the cheap. As director Adam Rifkin, who was going under the pseudonym of Riff Coogan, said this is basically his way of learning how to make movies before he made real movies. So he created the pseudonym Riff Coogan. So figured he could use this. This would be his alternate personality, so he could do these exploitation films. And then Adam Rifkin would be the person who did the more mainstream project, the one he really cared about. And of course, he would go on to do Detroit Rock City, and I believe it was a Psycho Cop Returns. I'm not sure how that's the title that exactly is, but so he said, in the documentary on here that that was the whole point, is him kind of learning on the fly. It was never meant. It was always meant to go strictly to video. This was the '90s. That's all it was. But of course, at the time, you still had you still film on a 60 millimeter, so they were able to get a premiere, and it was shot on film, even though it went straight to video. But what I found interesting. In fact, the movie, I watched the movie just last night, so it's fresh in my mind, mostly. And let me just say, it is a very fun movie. I'm glad I picked it up. It's exactly what you expect it to be. There's a striptease in the opening credits, so right then and there you know what you're getting, and that's not a bad thing. You've got just TNA all throughout it. And I mean, in the whole, we'll call it a slasher, which I really don't want to call it a slasher, it's not really that, because that didn't start till basically the third act. But the premise, if you're not familiar with it, you have a young child who is basically a perv at a young age, peeping on, our main title stripper or dancer, or whoever she's getting undressed, and he's watching her through a telescope, and she's just putting on a strip tease to undress her for nobody, because that's how women get undressed tonight, putting on a strip tease for nobody. Seems legit to me. Of course, his mother catches him. She's very strict, and from that point on, he's basically, psychologically damaged in some way or another. But he goes on to be a big a scientist who's trying to create an invisibility serum. Why? I don't really say, but I guess the impression is that so he can peep on women. As young men, that's why we all want to be invisible as young men, is just to be pervs. Eventually, he fast forward, it fails at one point. He's in a mental institution. He escapes, and he goes under hiding as Professor Kevin Smith, teaching physics at summer school. Which, the reason why this was summer school, as they said, they actually had the school they could use to shoot, and they shot everything in the school, but it was abandoned, and they couldn't afford extras, so how they put up a sign that said, hey, it's summer school. There you go, problem solved. So you only have like 6 kids, I'd say, at one class summer school, he's teaching it. And in the end, of course, he's kind of driven insane. He's trying to get his formula created, and these students are just harassing him not just the students, but this overly sex-starved principal, who is very, very attractive. But basically, they just drive him over the edge, and he becomes the invisible maniac. And there you have it. What I found interesting, again, going back to the film and the documentary, is that they don't really touch on the fact that Savannah was in the film. Obviously she's in the film. She's in there. She's fairly prominent. I think she even got like second or third billing, playing Vicky. One of the bubbly co-eds. But I find it interesting when you hear accounts of her thoughts on this film. Was, like I said, this was, even though it was made for video, it did get a, actual gala premiere, because it was shot on 60mm. That's just what you did back then, like you said, like Anarchy said, to say. And they had a premiere at the Pussycat Theater. And I guess, it went over well. People laughed at the right spots, the crowd was into it. But if I was reading that Savannah had a hard time with it, when she would be on screen giving her lines, whatever, and people were laughing at it. She couldn't differentiate if they're laughing at a character or laughing at her, and that kind of really bothered her a lot, to the point where she just didn't want to even try anymore with mainstream films, and was say strictly with adult films, and which is a shame, because you're watching a film, she wasn't that bad. For what she had and what the movie was, I think she was just fine. Now, full disclosure, and I may upset a few Savannah fans, I was never the biggest fan of Savannah, the performer. Personally, not that she wasn't beautiful, because she was absolutely beautiful, but I feel like when I would watch her on screen, she didn't really have that charisma, or just something that to me just didn't click. So I was never really big into Savannah, to be perfectly honest. But watching her, in this movie and seeing what she could do, I think she sold herself short. And with if she could have probably done a few more. I'm not saying she would have done huge mainstream, but it could have got a few more B movies, straight to video. She could have perfected that, and not let the voices get in her ears and all that stuff, and get to her. That she had promise. I think she really could have gone a little further. Again, for what she had, the material she's written, she's fine. Actually, probably better than I've seen her in some adult films. And it's just too bad. I mean, I also know that, she was, at that point, I think she was very into the whole what people's perception of her. I mean, I think as Pauly Shore had quoted, who she was dating at the time that she died, that she had become Savannah. She was no longer Shannon, and she was in that character. I mean, in her mind, she was really worried about everyone's perception. That was the point. I mean, that's kind of what led to her unfortunate suicide. For those who don't know, she had been in a car crash and it, broke her nose and gave her some facial damage, and she was just traumatized by that. It was going to ruin her looks in her career or whatever, to the point where she shot herself, which is sad. It really is. And, to think part of that, you see, hearing those kind of stories is from this silly little film, and that kind of played in her mind. That's terrible. And it's too bad. Like I said, it's not, like I said, she could have done better if she just, I won't say she's done better. She given herself the chance and opportunity. I think she could have, been fairly good in possible further B movies or straight to video fare, and made a pretty good second career out of that, away from porn. But nonetheless, Visual Maniac, she's just fine. She's great. For those who care, she gets plain naked. The real star of this film, however, without a doubt, is Noel Peters as our aforementioned Invisible Maniac, aka Professor Dornwinkle. I think he had a first name. I can't remember what it was, but he is fantastic. How he's on screen, he is fully committed to his character, to the craziness, the whatever it is that's driving, the Invisible Maniac. I love the point later on he starts referring to himself as the Invisible Maniac, like he's it's like he's a comic book villain. How dare you? You can't defeat the Invisible Maniac or whatever, stuff like that. And he's also totally going into Freddy Krueger territory with this, making these quips as he kills. He's got this fantastic maniacal laugh that just almost Joker-esque. So, he'd have made a great comic book villain. I mean, in fact, Invisible Maniac sounds like it almost could be a Golden Age comic book villain. But he is great all throughout, and I love that the formula has an effect on him that increases his sexual desires, and on top of everything else. So he's not only a Invisible Maniac, but he is a super perved Invisible Maniac. Aren't we all though? So yeah, it's a very fun film. Like I said, it's entertaining from beginning to end. I'm glad even though the circumstances of me picking it up were totally just random, I'm glad I picked it up. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, I just watched it last night. I highly enjoyed this film, and there's a great 30-minute behind the scenes documentary with Adam Rifkin and a couple of the cast and crew. Again, I'm kind of, I don't say bother, but I kind of wish they would at least made a reference to Savannah or Shannon in somewhere in there, but they did not. I mean, there's probably some reason they may have, and it was just not edited or put in the documentary for whatever reasons. I'm sure maybe legal reasons, whatever the case, which is too bad, because I like to think that they talk about how everyone on the cast was great and got along well, and had a lot of fun. So I like to think that while she's filming it, she was having a good time at least, because I mean she looked like she was, even with her clothes on. So let's take a look at the release again. There's the artwork here in the slipcover with Savannah. Again, they're prominently putting her on the artwork. And again, the lenticular cover. This is actually an embossed cover. If you can really tell it or not, it's a little shiny. But the special lenticular cover is this image here, except when you do this, all this comes off, and I mean completely, in pure Vinegar Syndrome fashion. Again, the back end, one of the great kills towards the end, the head stomping scene, which is just hilarious. flip this out. And it is a 4K disc, and there's the other artwork, reverse artwork. Again, with Savannah, excuse me, and two of the other girls. Let me show you. Nothing good. Okay. And there's all your specs for the film. And inside, strictly the Blu-ray and your 4K. And that's really all there is to it, minus that, slipcover. Which you'll have to, if you really want to see it, have to find online or, find a collector that'll sell it to you for a decent price. Honestly, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to keep it. I just don't know where it's going to go or how to, because it's not like I can slip it around. There's just no way. I don't know. Maybe I'll just put it around another Blu-ray case. So I don't even know. I'll figure something out to do with it. But I am keeping it. I'm not going to part with it, at least no time yet. So there it is, Invisible Maniac, recently released from Vinegar Syndrome. I believe it's still available. Actually, I'm sure it's still available. If you haven't seen it and you like a good, sexy, sexy, but if you love TNA exploitation, horror, and some little laughs, highly recommend checking this out. Again, I'm very glad I purchased this. It was a lot of fun. This is something I will revisit quite often, and not just for the TNA, but it is a fun movie. Although the TNA is very nice, especially that principal. I forgot her name. I get her name. The redhead. Yeah, she was nice. So that is it for this awesome Blu-ray purchase. If you enjoy this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you picked up Invisible Maniac, if you got the alternate slipcover. If you picked it up from the $5 sale, or if you got it by other various means, shady or otherwise. If you are a fan of Savannah, let me know. And if you are, I do apologize for saying I wasn't a big fan of Savannah, her adult film work. Well, that's not true. I mean, she was fun to watch, but charisma-wise, I didn't really defend her. But, that's me analyzing porn probably more than I should. So, that is it for now. Until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.